Hello and welcome to True Crime, People and Places, the podcast where we explore the world of true crime from an academic and personal perspective. I'm Linda Sage, a criminal psychologist with over 4 decades of experience working with some of the most dangerous individuals in the world. This is a fairly new podcast and we are developing the systems and growing our audience, so we appreciate your support and feedback. This podcast may contain discussions of violence, murder, sexual assault, and other topics related to true crime. Listener discretion is advised. If you are sensitive to these topics, please be aware that this podcast may be triggering you. If at any time you feel overwhelmed or distressed, please take a break and seek support from a mental health professional or support organisation. Hi, and a very warm welcome back to True Crime, People and Places. I'm Linda Sage, and today I've got a very special guest by the name of Sam Wall. Now, if you've been on LinkedIn, you're in the UK, this lady is very active, but we're not going to be talking about her business. We're actually going to be talking about stalking. Now, there is a lot out there about this, and I will say before we start that if this affects anybody, then please do make sure that you stop listening and you go and get yourself some time out and look after yourself while you're doing this as well. So hopefully you will be able to enjoy my conversation with Sam, but in case there is any need, then do take yourself off. So, Sam Wall.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, well, there's so much we could talk about, but
Yeah.
obviously today we're not discussing your business. We're going to be looking at something that you've been going through in life, not actually directly into your scenario, but your experience and what how we can help other people come through this as well. So, Sam, it's not been a 5-minute wonder, has it?
It's not been a 5-minute wonder. It's an experience actually that's spanned 10 years now, and it's still ongoing, even though two of the people have been charged with harassment out of the group of gang stalkers. So really, it's gang stalking. So it's recruiting other individuals to be part of stalking a person, which I believe is on the rise in the Western world. So yeah, it's something of a phenomenon for me because I didn't know anything about it until it started happening to me. And actually, for the first, I would say, 3/4 of that 10 years, if not longer, I didn't know I was being stalked. I just thought everything was going wrong. So it's been a very, very strange time for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to come back to that. Right, let's just outline first of all, because as you said, you didn't know anything about it until
Yeah.
you were involved in it. So the actual 4 signs of stalking are behavior that is fixated, obsessive, unwanted, and repeated. And let's state quite clearly, it is a crime.
Yeah.
And you said there about the harassment. So there's fine lines across these things, but basically stalking is more in depth and more ferocious, basically, than the harassment. But there are laws from 97 and the 2010 that actually cover both of these.
Yes, they've been done for both. That's me not being very specific about things. But yeah, they've been done for both stalking and harassment. And I think the interesting, let's not say it's interesting, I suppose it's interesting for other people. It's not so much for me, it's a nightmare. Thing is that because of social media and online communications, what began as 10 years ago, what began as or 11 years ago now, what began as a contract for me, working at an agency in Salford, turned into more wider stalking. So it went from sort of targeting within an office situation, from what you might consider, you know, sort of unfortunately sometimes normal signs of bullying in an office, not just towards me, but towards other staff from the lady that owned it actually panned out further, and because of online comms, the stalking and harassment has been happening over social media, has been happening in business networks, was happening directly within my contract that time in 2012, and also began happening at my home and involved the neighbours. It's a really so it was a 360-degree situation that I didn't know was actually happening, because it was very coercive, and the people involved in stalking me were acting naturally to my face. Um,
I'm,
so
I'm,
just going
I'm
yeah,
just
go on,
going to jump
Linda.
back in. I'm just going to jump back a bit because one of the things that you said, and a lot of people that I've spoken to say exactly the same. At the beginning, they didn't even realize it was happening.
Yeah,
So that you make excuses, you think they're coincidences, you
yeah,
just it's flukes, because it's not so much in your face that somebody's coming up and smacking you on
yeah.
the arms.
100%. I mean, that was the problem. I mean, obviously, I had the bullying that was going on within the contract, and I won't go into detail because we've got to
Yeah.
avoid that. But we had that. I had that, and then I had online. I was being trolled. I was getting emails, death threats, and all sorts of things. And then the neighbours were involved, and this is because my lodger was the person that attracted that attention all the way around. I'd have to go into detail to explain it all. I have, with a lot of written pieces I put on LinkedIn, so I know a lot of people have read the detail of it. So my neighbours became involved. I was getting bricks through my window. My car was getting destroyed. And what happens is you don't actually realise that this is all connected. You kind of think, "Oh my God, this is happening. I've had a brick through my window, or work's been bad today, or my lodger seems in a bit of a bad mood." Um, and as these things continue to occur, it starts to break you down and isolate you. So it's a long-term thing that really, really affects your psychology. I mean, today I know that I have PTSD. I've been told officially I have PTSD. I have had a breakdown through this, and when it all started, I was also dealing with cancer. But in any eventuality, no matter what, even if you were of completely sound mind and sound great health, all the rest of it, it will still hugely impact your psychology, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. A lot of the way I feel is a lot of guilt. I felt guilt for um the anger that people had with me, such as the bricks and the death threats. I felt like this is my fault, but it's so subliminal that eventually you're walking around thinking, I don't think I know myself. I'm not the person that I used to be. I've run companies before, I've founded companies before, I've run businesses for 7 or 8 years, I've sold them. And I was kind of broken down into a person that couldn't even walk down the road.
Yeah. Um,
So
I
that
just
was really difficult.
coming back to that as well, because where you make the excuses, you start looking in at yourself and
You do.
blaming yourself and thinking that you're causing these things to happen.
You do. You do. You do. You think that you're the one that's the issue, and especially when online it's quite coercive, and there's you get a lot of things coming at you that suggest that you're not a nice person. Um, the bullying that kind of came from the company, it happened with everybody within the business, and they were all younger staff, and I saw some awful times. And I think going back, so I'll go off on a tangent here, but I think I was going to say I should have, in hindsight, seen through the lady that interviewed me, when she was explaining what had happened to her former staff, that they'd been subjected to bullying as well. And I think I just kind of made excuses for that. So you do make lots of excuses. Well, not quite. I'm a very empathic person, and I do think that this tends to happen to those types of people. So I think boundaries is a big thing. And I don't really get boundaries. Well, I haven't done, but I've had to put them in place now. But I was very, very, very bad for boundaries. Um, but yeah, you start feeling guilty, and um, with that guilt, it starts to eat you because you think it's you that's the problem. And you do become more and more mentally vulnerable within that situation. I'm trying not to get too detailed about it, so I'm kind of that's why I've
Yeah, no,
sorry, not gone into
that's good. The other thing as well, I think what a lot of people, and you've sort of referenced to it, but not said directly, is about you keep it quiet, you keep it to yourself. You don't actually
Oh,
go and talk to people about it.
good point, Linda, good point. I get exactly where you're coming from here. Yeah, that's exactly what I did, and that was one of the biggest problems, actually. But also it was a natural thing to do. So naturally, when something, I don't think it's just me. I think this does happen with quite a lot of, of people. When things go really wrong, you tend to want to keep to yourself, or if you're feeling down or depressed, you tend not to want to go out or not to go and speak to your friends. During the time, I mean, I have a very, very wide friendship circle, but I actually became more and more isolated. And so the more that I was targeted and the worse I felt about myself, the more I became very isolated. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to see anybody. And yeah, I felt like everything was my fault. And one of the things I was thinking was, oh, I can't go and see my friend because I'm not good enough to be for to have a friend like her, and I'm not good enough, and you start feeling that you're not good enough, especially when you do have that negativity coming at you from online, coming at you from all sorts of different directions, and every single element of your personality is up for question. um so yeah, and the other thing was I did report it to the police at the time, but the problem is that, I didn't have a very clear indication of who to point that finger to. So I couldn't say, Greg Jones, threw a brick through my window last Thursday. This is what's happened. But I could only report the crime as it was occurring, but I didn't know where it was coming from. I knew I was getting a lot of, aggression from the neighbours, and I did report that, but I couldn't say that they were throwing bricks through my window. I don't even know if it was them. I suspect it probably wasn't. And so it's very difficult when it's so coercive to pin it down to a specific circumstance. It just all molds into one, and you become more and more insular. And honestly, like in the last few years, I've started to talk out about it. But in the last few years, I've only just realised what has happened because I've come into contact with my persecutors, and from going back over all my instances, from speaking to witnesses, because I couldn't go back and look at these things. Um, Unfortunately, my house was acquired by one of the stalkers, but I've talked about that. But I couldn't go back over what had happened in the past until just recently in the last few years because I didn't have the mental capacity to do it. Um, but yeah, I was coerced into a network, and things became more and more clear that the person that coerced me into the network, who ran the network, was one of the primary persecutors. And unfortunately, he's out there saying he's not guilty, which is insane because he's been charged. But anyway, um,
But I think you made a really good point there again that you didn't put all the things together, and even if you are going to the authorities and you're reporting one thing,
yeah,
don't necessarily report all of them. So I think this
yeah,
gathering of evidence, because there is no quick fix for this, unfortunately. There
it
it's not
really
like
isn't.
somebody's one attack and it's done. This is ongoing, and
Yeah,
getting that information, and as you said, perhaps witness statements, but keeping notes from the beginning, not making the
yeah.
excuses. There's no coincidences. Take in everything and build your evidence. I think it's really key because I'm hearing this from so many people
Are
that
you
when
as
they actually
well?
look back, they can see that things happened a long time before
Yeah.
the reality hit them.
Yeah, exactly, and that can be quite difficult as well because you can't always go back and get some of the earlier things charged. So it's been more kind of the recent stuff I've been able to do something about. But you're completely right, and it was that gathering of evidence and gathering of witness statements. And because these people are still doing this now to me, it's been more recent stuff. So one of the females is out there kind of slandering me within business circles, but I've got people coming to me and telling me what's happened. They'll stand for me and be a witness. So, but it's taken a long time to gather that information and even get to the stage that we're at today. There are 5 kind of key people involved in this, but others recruited on the outside. And I think before I actually began to speak out, I um I didn't have a voice. I really was drowning in what their words were for my life and who I was. So they were saying this is who she is, and they were being believed because they're influencers. So I mean, it's people kind of utilizing their privilege in a way for what they do to
I'm just going
hurt
to jump
other
in there because I
people.
think that's a really important thing you said, that you felt like you had no voice. And
Yeah,
this I hear a lot. So your actual stepping out and finding a voice and talking. I mean, it is incredibly brave, and it must take an awful lot of
it's draining,
yeah, training for you
really,
to do it. But
100%.
this is it. If you had known and had done this earlier, do you think it could have made a difference?
Yeah. Actually, I do, and yeah, I mean, to put it like that, yeah, 100%. I do think it would have made a difference. I think that people would have yeah, I think people would have listened to me and considered me a little bit more. Unfortunately, the people that are doing this to me, the 2 people that were charged, are very respected in the community. I've had to really I mean, the thing is I'm right, because you went back to we're not talking about my job, but I do think one of the reasons why I'm being targeted is because of my job.
Mhm.
That's the thing. So I think because I do have a lot of reach and I'm very visible in networks, I do believe that I'm in people's way, and I believe that's the reason. But it's taken me a long time to even understand that. I didn't know why people would do this to me. Why would you do it? Obviously you just look for these logical reasons. So it's but what I had to do, what I felt I had to do was really increase my visibility within networks. And because I'm in digital marketing and I know at what to do, I've really pushed to do that. And that for me has enabled me to get my voice heard. And that really singularly is the only thing that's enabled me to get my voice heard, I've felt. But I think that could have happened sooner. But at the same point, I wasn't ready mentally sooner.
Yeah.
And you can only go at your own pace. But yeah, I mean, having your voice heard is really important from loads of perspectives. It's important for your mental health because you need people and yourself, even verbalizing it, to recognize what's happening to you. You need to quantify because it's very, very messy in your head and it's messy with your psychology. And you need to you do it's a case of speaking out for others because this isn't a one-off. This is going on everywhere else as well. There's always things like this going on. And yeah, it's giving people a voice, hoping that people are given a voice and an opportunity to speak out themselves. It's really important too. But
And
yeah, I found that speaking out's become a part of therapy. So I haven't officially had any therapy, but speaking out when I write about this online, I've not really verbally spoken out too much about it because I've had to get into my comfort zone with things. Is when I write, I feel like I've gone through a therapy session. It's exhausting. And it might seem that, I'm really open, I can chat and it's easy. These things aren't easy, but do them because you feel a whole heap better when you do.
there are support mechanisms out there, and I'm just gonna we spoke
Yeah,
earlier about the national helpline, which I've got the number, so I'm just gonna
yeah.
give this. If you're in the UK, then the national helpline, stalking helpline, is 0808 802 0300. In other countries, no doubt there will be, so a question, but also there's a lot of support networks out there that you
There
don't
are.
actually look for because you're in denial of it actually happening.
That's a really, really good point, and I think I would say that I'm one of those people in that situation, and then when I did find out what was happening, I kind of felt that I felt I was a bit further down the line in that I need to get my voice out now, and I was ready, and I didn't look at those helplines, but it's really important, I think, that people do. I think maybe I would have been ready sooner to speak out, perhaps if I'd rung one of those helplines, but, the self-reflection,
Yeah.
you know, it's a
I'd
bit
say
late now.
hindsight is good, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
change
yeah,
anything.
100%.
So if you had looking back over what you've done, and I'm just going to highlight here as well. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, well, you have to be famous, or it's somebody you're in a
Yeah.
relationship with, you're stalking. I mean, you just blown all of these ideas out of the water.
Yeah, it's very true. You and that's why it took me a long time for me to get my head around it because I couldn't understand why. I have no relationship to any of the people stalking me, and in fact, when it began, there were people stalking me I have never even met and didn't know existed. The only person I knew that was around me, which was central, was my lodger, and I didn't even know that he was being coercive. What I do and have seen since is that the people stalking me have got characteristics of psychopathic behavior. And I'm pretty sure a number of them are psychopaths, but obviously I'm no expert. I just don't understand anybody that would do this to anybody else, and there's got to be something mentally not right, I think, to do it. I do think what's happened in like the dawning of the social media era is that it has attracted people to stalk others online that they don't necessarily know. And it could be a female influencer, you see it with celebrities. Yes, I'm not a celebrity. I do think these things do happen. But yeah, they do happen with people that aren't famous as well. And I just think there's a few tick boxes for people that might have a obsessive compulsive disorder or that kind of psychology that makes them a stalker. Social media is sort of a hunting ground for that. And I know that one of the people involved in this in particular uses social media in that way. And it's not just me. I know he's done it to others because I've had those stories. So this is somebody that's got those natural psychological approaches to this. I think social media's stoked it for him and become his hunting ground. But yeah, I know it can happen to anybody, and don't think because that I mean, for ages I was thinking, oh, well, why me? I'm not important, surely it's not happening to me. And if I say it's happening to me, it makes me look like I'm full of myself. But it has happened and it is happening. So yeah, just be aware and don't feel bad and try and speak out as soon as possible and do get in touch with one of these helplines as well. Because I think if I'd known, I'd have done that sooner. Um, yeah, things would have been different, I think.
Sam, I mean, we could talk for hours, but
Yeah, got to keep the detail out.
maybe we'll come back and have a second installment as things progress for you, because I know that you're doing a lot of work and you are supporting and helping a lot of other people by speaking out. So I want to say thank you so much for your time being with us today.
Thanks, Linda.
And
Thank you. I've loved it. And do you know what? You're the first person I've done a podcast with because I actually feel really comfortable with you. Yeah, and I've got a lot of respect for you. So thank you, Linda.
my pleasure. So thank you very much. And for everybody else, if you have any issues regarding this, please do go and find some really solid support. Look at the people that you are interacting with and don't put it off. It's better to do it early and get yourself going rather than wait too long and really be suffering. So our
Yeah,
advice is definitely make a move, stop making excuses. So thank you so much,
absolutely.
and we look forward to being back with you next time. For now, take care. Thank you for listening to True Crime People and Places. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, please let us know. See you next time.